We all know that not being motivated to study a foreign language can be one of the most frustrating experiences possible, not only because it's not fun to be in that kind of low dopamine, like not feeling like doing anything state, but also because you still, even when you're not motivated, you still want to learn the language, you just don't feel like doing anything now. And in this video, I'm going to explain how you can fix that, how we can crush that problem in a very, very simple way. I've dumbed it down a lot, and this is something that I've learned recently and I've tried implementing, and it's very, very effective to actually be motivated to learn a language. So the problem is that we're not motivated, and the reason for that is quite simple. It's because of your perception of progress. There's a quote that I really like, which is, I've actually got it written down, I can see it right now on my desk, which is that it's easy when you're winning. When you're winning, when you're doing well, it's very easy to put work in. However, as soon as you stop winning, as soon as it gets tough and you don't feel as if you're making as much progress, it starts to get more difficult to language learn. And I'll put this into a kind of formula for you to look at. When progress is bigger than pain, you feel good. It's easy to make it's easy to work on a language. So if you're like learning a bunch of different words and you're getting so much better at language learning, you can see that you've improved and you've kind of got that high. It's very easy to sit down and do flashcards and to study. You can probably study even more than you actually say you're going to, because you feel as if this is paying off. But as soon as you go a few weeks or maybe even a few months or a few years, sometimes I've heard from some people, of being inconsistent, not actually making progress in the language, the pain of studying and the frustration starts to exceed the actual amount of progress you're making, and then you feel demotivated because what you feel you deserve from the amount of work you've put in, you're not actually getting, and that makes you really frustrated. So what we need to do is to be constantly making progress and to constantly perceive our own progress. Sometimes you actually don't even realize you're making progress, so we need to do both of those things. And when we do both of those things, it leads to effectively chronic motivation. As soon as you stop making progress and you perceive that you're doing some language learning task, but it's just frustrating, you're not getting anywhere, that leads to chronic demotivation, and that is what I think a lot of people have, which is why they give up on a language and get nowhere. So here is what I'd recommend you do. I'm going to introduce you to this idea of stack the rocks. So I want you to imagine, this is like a thought experiment or whatever, but I want you to imagine this scales, right? So on the left side, we've got pain, and on the right side, we've got growth. The rocks represent your perception. So at the moment, you've got a whole massive pile of rocks on pain. You're constantly thinking about, you don't want to sit down and do flashcards. This is frustrating. You'd rather do anything else. You don't want to study the language. And your perception of growth is that, yeah, I guess I can kind of make a little bit of progress. And although I want to learn the language, you don't really want to do anything right now because you have so many rocks on the pain side. What we need to do is stack the rocks on the other side. We need to move them from pain to growth. As soon as you have most of the rocks on the growth side and you realize, wow, I am actually making progress, it's very easy to do the studying things that we talked about before, and you don't feel as if you're wasting your time. So what I want you to do right now is to pick one high quality habit, just one, that is going to be good for you and it's going to make you better in the language. So it could be flashcards, it could be listening practice, it could be reading, it could be writing out a short story or a paragraph with a bunch of words. It could be writing out a bunch of words just from memory, even not in a paragraph. It could be watching a vlog, anything like that. This is going to be your habit for a little bit, not forever, but this is going to be your habit, and you're going to do this every single day, at least once a day, no matter what. That's why I'd recommend you start small with like something that takes 5 to 10 minutes, because even if you're very busy, you can still do that. And what we're going to do to basically stack the rocks and to put ourselves into that mindset of the fact that we're making progress is we're going to measure every single time we do it. So something I'd recommend you do is you could use tally marks, like you could have a piece of paper that you put a tally mark on every time you do this, or you could put stones or marbles or something in a glass, so you can have an empty glass on your desk and you can have a bunch of marbles in a box or whatever, and every time you do the habit, you put one in the jar to fill it up slowly over time. And what's going to happen is this kind of system we're using to measure this one task is it's a literal physical representation of the work you're putting in. As you see the marbles stack up in that jar, you're understanding that each of those marbles represents you putting in effort. Every single day you've done this one task. It doesn't matter what it is. And so you know for a fact that you are actually making progress in a language. A lot of the time you go through the frustration of doing flashcards and you completely forget that you actually did anything to get better at the language, and so you're left only with the fact you're just thinking about the fact that you're doing things you don't really feel like doing right now, and that's not good. So yeah, that's the first thing I'd recommend you do, is to actually quantify and keep track of how much of a particular task you're doing, what I'd also recommend is to make sure you are actually making progress, because it's all well and good to track you doing something, but if you're not making progress at all, you're effectively tracking nothing. So what I want you to do is to set yourself some kind of, make sure the task you are setting yourself is one that is going to make you better in the foreign language. So you know, if you do 10 minutes of flashcards every single day, even if it's like 5 to 10 flashcards and you do them a few times, you're objectively going to get better in the foreign language. That's not a lot of study. You should probably do a little bit more than that, but just doing 10 minutes of flashcards every day is going to make you objectively better in the language over time. And, sorry, what was I going to say? Yeah, so the final thing, sorry, that I would recommend is weekly journaling. So what you should do every single week, that I do every single week, I've done it for probably this entire year and a bit of last year, is at the end of each week, I do it on a Sunday. If you're a maniac, you can do it on a Saturday if you think Saturday's the end of the week. In my opinion, it's Sunday, and anyone who disagrees is wrong and will go to hell. But what you can do is journal at the end of every single week. You can journal about what went well that week, and you can journal about what was frustrating that week, and you can kind of turn the frustrating things of that week into the positives of next week. So if you're having difficulty remembering words, you can say, okay, I'm going to watch a video on this. You can go onto my channel and watch a video about why learning words might not be working for you. I'll have it linked below if you want, and you can go, okay, I need to do X, Y, and Z to remember words better, and that's what I'm going to do next week, and you can write that into your calendar and make sure you're actually doing that. And yeah, that is basically the solution to stacking the rocks and to being motivated. As soon as you make sure you are doing high quality habits consistently, and you're able to quantify how much you're doing, and you journal on the problems you have, you'll be an absolute machine. You'll be making progress in no time. But guys, that is the video. If you did want to check out my course, I've got it linked below. Definitely hit the subscribe button, because it makes me feel better about all the work I put in for free. Hope this helps, and have a good one.